Hi there. Today we're making this erosion effect. How we're gonna make it? With the TyFlwo, of course. So we'll give a birth to some particles. We'll direct the travel around the objects, and we will learn how to use the VDB inside TyFlwo. And let's roll. Alright, so here I am in maps, and let's create an object. Let's create a, let's say, box. This box will be 1 meter in all three axes. And let's also subdivide it a bit. Maybe 10 by 10 by 10. And let's create a TyFlow now. So I'm creating TyFlow object, zero out the position of it, and opening the editor. First, what we are going to do is we're going to create some particles. Birth operator, they all can be born at frame 0, and let's add some more, maybe 1000 particles. But I want them to be born in the, not on the box, but a bit aside of it, so the particles will arrive to the shape, the box. So I'm adding a Ty icon, roughly next to the box, and position it something like this. Maybe rotate, it doesn't really matter actually. And in the editor, I'm adding position icon, picking the icon, and here are the particles, but now they're static, doing nothing. So let's attract these particles to the box. We will use a find target. And let's pick the object. So now the particles are traveling next to the box and searching for it. For more interesting result, let's create these particles not all at frame 0, but maybe in 15 frames. And let's make the timeline longer, 300 maybe. All right. Now what I need them to do when they reach the target, the box, I want them to use the other force. So new event, and that force is surface force. What this force does, it uses the geometry of the target object and creates a velocity field along the shape, along the surface. So I need to pick the shape, which is the box, and let's see how it goes. Let's make it more visible, these particles. All right, so now you see how they swirling around the box. Let's adjust this effect. So first, I want them to be led by the noise map. Let's create that noise map, and simple noise will be enough. So general noise, and changing to standard just to see in the viewport. What's important is to change from in the source to change to explicit, and the size will be 0.1. My scene in the centimeters, by the way. So material, array material, put it on the default and apply to the box. So let's first increase the size slightly, maybe like this. And just for the demonstration, I want to make this noise to be more contrast. So something like this. Let's animate it. So enabling my auto key. In the frame 25, which is 1 second of the time, I want the phase to be changed to 1/10. Yeah, it's moving, but it stops moving after the 25th frame. So let's make this animation continuous. So I'm opening the curve editor, and here in diffuse phase, let's select these two keyframes and the frame range change to linear. Now the animation is evolving during the time. Let's use now this noise in the TyFlow. So I'm going back to editor, surface force, and in the texture tab, I'm loading my noise map to this slot. So now let's see how it works. Yeah, we need to slow down the particles because now the velocity is too high. I'm adding slow operator. Let's slow them. Okay, let's check with 5%. Yeah, you already see how they are sticking to the surface. They're not actually sticking to the surface. They are trying to follow the noise. But because noise is quite contrasty, they are almost staying in one place. So in the slow operator, first let's reduce to 2 maybe. Okay, maybe 3. And now they're changing their position outwards from the surface, but I want them to be stick to the surface. So for that, I will use a object bind. Pick the box. Here, let's set up properly. So lock the surface and friction is 0. So they will slide. They should slide along the surface. And now let's get back to the material editor and change the threshold to the default values. So to free them out, to free them up. And in the surface force, let's now increase the force because now it's 0, I believe. So I think I forgot to change it. Yeah, in the texture, we have two forces, two values, gradient ascent and gradient trace. Now we're using trace, so let's add some values here and play it. Yeah, now they're actually doing what I need. So now we can slow them down and you will see the effect better. All right, so now let's add a shape. This shape, for now, I will leave it as low-res spheres. In the display, let's change to geometry to see those spheres in the viewport. And I'm gonna change back to performance. Yeah, and let's hide the box. I think we don't have to see it. Oops, I forgot to organize my layers. So flow goes to flow, icon to helpers, geometry stays. All right. And let's scale those spheres. So scale operator. Let's make them slightly bigger, 150, and random size. Yeah, something like this. So from now we are starting to work with the VDB. So I recommend to save the scene first. If you scroll to the right side of this panel, you will see the section with VDB tools, VDB operators, and let's use the birth VDB. Here you will see already in the viewport how appeared the helper that represents the size of the voxels. So one unit is one voxel size. The more voxels you have, the heavier the simulation, but the more precise the result. That's the correlation. So let's include our shape, our box into this simulation. And first, maybe we should turn off the particles. We don't need to see them now. So I'm adding my box. That's a VDB object to VDB and picking the box. Yeah, but first let's change to bigger size of the voxel and picking the box. Okay. Let's see. So our mesh is quite dense already, but we need to be denser like this. So you see how the edges are becoming more hard, not soft. Let's go with 4. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna convert those particles we had into the VDB as well, and those particles will kind of eat our box shape. So let me show you what I mean. Here we have an operator that converts particles into VDB, so particles to VDB, and I don't have to pick the TyFlow object because I can include this flow's particles. But if you would have from somewhere else the other particles, the other TyFlow, you can pick that one and it will be included here. So now I include these particles from this event. And what they should do, now we need to set up the operation because when they arrive to here, they are also a VDB, but they're not interacting with each other. So let's set up this operation, what they should do. They should, this operation can be set up with changing the mode or changing the operation. In the particles, I'm gonna pick a subtract. And we also have to change the timing into continuous. And now you see how these particles are affecting the box. So when they're next to one mesh next to another one, it starts to carve the surface out. So we're gonna increase the size, and if we want particles to eat the box faster, we need to increase the size during the time, increase the size of the particles during the time. So going back to 0, and I will add a scale operator, one more, and this one will be animated. It will be continuous, and the scale will increase during the time. But if I put, let's say, 101, it means that every frame, every particle will become bigger at 1% of the original size. And we can see that you see how the particles are becoming bigger and bigger. But maybe this value should be higher, so maybe 105, just to make it faster, this effect. Yeah, important detail I forgot to mention that in the particle to VDB operator, we have to set up these use particle shapes as on. So the shape of the particle will affect the shape, the box. And now if we disable the display and play the timeline, we will see how these spheres are eating. This is almost a melting effect. So if you want to make this effect slower, you just have to reduce the scale value to, let's say, 102, and it means that the scaling of the spheres will happen slower and the eating process will be slower as well. And now having this effect prepared, let's export this VDB mesh. So I'm putting export VDB in the search, export VDB, and I just have to specify where I want to export these VDB files. The output is .vdb, and just generate the mesh, and that's it. You can include or exclude if you need the channels, UV velocity, SDFs, color, and that's about it. So I hope that was interesting and useful. So please try it in your works, and that's quite a cool thing to do and interesting to work with these VDB effects. So see you in the next one.